Hi everyone. Welcome to MADPD. This is the first time that I'm going to be doing this, doing an international webinar, and I'm so excited to be here. So I guess we're still a bit early. I can start in maybe a few minutes just to get everyone settled down. If you're here and you're just waiting, I hope you guys can introduce yourselves in the comment box below. I'd love to see and also hear where you guys are from here. Okay, so welcome to my Mad PD. I'm Alfonso Mangubat. I'm from the Philippines. I've been teaching for 7 years. I think we're going on 8 years already. I've done various roles from social studies teacher to English teacher to math teacher. But now I'm currently working for Key School Manila. We've just been authorized by the IB diploma program. So I'm really excited to take on the role of the diploma program coordinator for this school year. I'm really excited, but at the same time apprehensive as well. Okay. So uh, other than that, that's me. I love educational technology. I'm an Apple Distinguished Educator also, so um, I love how technology has helped learning inside the classroom, and has also helped students become more engaged, and how technology has helped increase accessibility and inclusion inside my classroom. So with that, or with all of our introductions out of the way, we can start this PD. Let me just go right ahead, screen share my presentation. Okay. Right. I hope you guys can see that. Okay. So once again, welcome to my PD. It's called Making Learning Personalized and Contextualized. So once again, I'm Alfonso Mangubat, an Apple Distinguished Educator from the Philippines. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, first off, I'd like to share my story of how I got to this point in my professional and educational life. And then we'll look at how we can make learning personal and also better, especially by looking at different tools that we can use. And then we'll look at how personalized and contextualized learning tools help make our classroom better and richer. Okay. If you've noticed in the presentation, you'll see that there's a question link there. Go right ahead and ask or share any questions that you may have, and I would be really excited to share this. Whoops. Oh, there. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Let me go back. There we go. I was able to share this. I hope you guys are seeing it already. Okay. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And let's start off. So when I first started teaching, I was using this terrible textbook. It was 300, 400 pages long, filled with so much text, and there wasn't a lot of opportunities for me to really understand it better. My students did not understand the textbook that we were using. It was very boring, actually, and the activities were simplistic. So it wasn't challenging enough for my students, but it was challenging for me as a teacher to teach, because I had to make use of that textbook. And there were some parts that were just overly long, and I really didn't like it. So it got me thinking about how I can how I can make my classroom and the learning engagements in there better. And therefore, I started thinking about how can we make all of these textbooks that I'm using and the information that I have around me, especially with the internet, we use it to help my students. So it really got me thinking. And at the same time, we were also or I was encountering these sorts of issues in the Philippines, wherein we had just transitioned to the K-12 program, and suddenly our Department of Education started fast tracking all of these textbooks for use in the next school year. And if you can see in your screens right now, there's that problem of erroneous information, biased information, and well, basically it was just a hackneyed job that really didn't help students and teachers alike. And so it got me thinking about the problems that I encountered when I was learning and my students were learning. So I identified these different problems. First off, a lot of the textbooks were biased. It showed that there was a natural tendency to favor the Western perspective over the Oriental perspective, or vice versa. Um, or it was too academic, so it wasn't fit for the grade level I was teaching. So just imagine I was teaching a grade 7 level, and then my the textbook I was using, or the words that were on the textbook, were fit for a grade 11 or a grade 12 student. Again, I said it was boring. I found it quite basic also. The information just got you from point A to point B, but there wasn't like an interactive element to it, or there weren't links to videos or other resources for my students to engage with and also to conduct their own research. And as you saw earlier, there was erroneous information that you saw there. So that was it. Sometimes it was watered down, no challenge, oftentimes very wordy, and in the end, a lot of things got technical. So with these problems in mind, I started thinking about how can I equip myself so that I could be able to create a better environment for my students to learn, as well as create an environment where in the resources that I'm putting inside the classroom have meaning and substance for my students and also for me. And so a few years ago, I had this wonderful opportunity to attend an iTunes seminar or training in uh, um, in the Philippines. Hold on, please. Oh, sorry about that. Just had to go pop out for a few seconds. So anyway, going back, I had this opportunity to attend an iTunes training. So I was taught how to create my own resources using the iTunes U software. I also used different applications as well that that helped me think about how to integrate technology inside the classroom. But the biggest thing that really helped me was when I got my first MacBook. I had what do you call this? I was really excited about it because I'd seen an Apple Education event on on iBooks Author, and I get that when I saw the video of iBooks Author and how different schools in the United States were already using it for their own classrooms. That got me really excited, and I was I was so enthusiastic in downloading that Apple Book software that I started creating my own textbooks. So moving forward, we're going to be looking at the tools for creating personalized and contextualized learning. We'll be looking at iTunes U and iBooks Author. So to start off, a few years ago when I got my MacBook, I downloaded the iBooks Author software, and I used this textbook here, the Philippine Civilization textbook that you see on your left, Philippine Civilization History and Government. When you look at that textbook, um, it's it was good for my students. It wasn't too wordy, it wasn't too technical, it wasn't difficult to understand, but I found that I could be able to condense that information better and make it simpler for my students to understand. And so with the Apple Books software or the iBooks author software, I started adapting what I had read and also what I had researched and created this iBooks or Apple Books that you see in front of your screen, the Spanish colonization of the Philippines, early interactions and settlements. And I created this module from this book to serve as a learning module for my students because at that time I was teaching them about Philippine history and I wanted them to be able to engage and interact with the content that we were learning. So if you download this on the Apple Books, um, you'll be able to see like different images, and at the same time, Apple Books allows you to upload images, and then using your tablet or your phone, you can scroll. You can also play videos from on the fly. And for my students, it was really fun and interesting because they knew that they won't be able to go to these places in the Philippines. So seeing it on their tablet screens and being able to zoom and enlarge and actually watch videos and listen and go to different website links really helped them understand the impact of Spanish colonization in the Philippines. So as a result of my tinkering with iBooks author, I started writing other books as well. The book that I'm really proud of is The Inquiry Cycle, a guidebook adapted from Kath Murdoch's Inquiry Cycle. I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but when I was a PYP teacher in a PYP school, I got very familiar with her work, and it inspired me to write my own adaptation and understanding of her work. So I was able to share this also with my teachers whom I was training for to implement their own inquiries in social studies. And then just a year ago, I wrote Integrating Technology in the Classroom. So after using technology for quite some time already, good 3 years, I wanted to share my own experiences and also the applications that I had picked up along the way in order to help my teachers in my school also create an environment where technology as a tool really helps students understand and engage with the content better. Now, going back to the story wherein I attended an iTunes U training a few years ago, I also created my own iTunes U courses for my students. The thing with Apple Books, it isn't available here in the Philippines. And so I had to share my Apple Books with my students. And sometimes parents would ask me, like, where can I download or where can I get this resource? Because I'm a cousin or a nephew of mine wants to learn more about the Spanish colonization of the Philippines. So I created these iTunes U courses so that um, I could also upload my books onto these courses so that other people can access it. Um, so with iTunes U, I was able to create different learning modules that really made use of different 21st century skills and processes. Um, I, I also aligned it with what we're doing inside the classroom. So a lot of the tasks here are familiar to my students already. At the same time, iTunes U the gives both me and the students accountability. I know who's submitting or not. I know who's accessing the course as well. And at the same time, as history changes or as new developments happen, I can also change the course on the fly. I'm really proud actually of these iTunes U courses because I was able to publish it in our school's iTunes U page. So if you go onto iTunes U and and when you look up Key School Manila, you'll be able to see some of the iTunes U courses I created, and also those of my fellow office or fellow teachers as well. So slowly, we were able to create an environment wherein our teachers are able to create their own resources as well, and the resources that are accessible for other students as well. So we're coming now to the last part of my session. The question here is, why personalize and contextualize content? Because first and foremost, you can make content your own. We have so many resources in the country or on the web, but the problem is that these resources don't belong to us. They belong to somebody else whose intellect and whose words are more complicated than ours. So when we start creating and personalizing our content, we're able to turn that content into our own, making it easy for our students because they know how we talk, they know the vocabulary and the jargon that we're using. So it's easy for our students to understand and to learn this. Another thing is that we're able to tweak the level accordingly. So since all of these resources are online or stored in a shared database, it's easy for us to update the information accordingly. We can also take in different parts and also adjust it. So let's say if we're trying to streamline content, we can remove parts or we can integrate it somewhere else. And therefore, when you start creating your own resources, you begin to think about like, is this learning engagement appropriate for my students or not? Is it too simple or is it too difficult? Where can I how can I make it challenging? How can I adjust it to give the right challenge for my students? Next up, we can match content with assessed skills. So if in the past we would buy textbooks by the bulk, and when we go through it, we'd notice that, oh, some of these content don't match what we're teaching, or the content or the activities inside the textbook are simple or don't meet the assessed skills that we need for this subject. Then with iTunes U and Apple Books, we're able, or even with Book Creator, we are able to create or match content with assessed skills by identifying, okay, so these are the skills that we need at this level. How can we then tweak the content so that we can give them the right amount of challenge and also the skills that we need to assess them in? Most importantly, in this day and age where information is easily accessible, it's important as teachers that we create our own curated and student created resources. Um, the, the books that I've just published are just one form of curated content. And I really want teachers to start thinking about how how can you help your learning resource center grow in your own little way. And with these different applications, not just from Apple, but also from different softwares as well. Book Creator is another option. Moodle and oth- and Kahoot and even Google Classroom will really help create an environment wherein learning is personalized and learning is also contextualized as well. And so I end my presentation. For those who are watching with me right now, just like to say thank you for joining me this evening in the Philippines and this morning in wherever part of the world you are. So, as a way of saying thank you, I hope that you guys can spend a few minutes of your time to answer this short survey. Believe me, it's really short and it won't take up too much of your time. You can follow the link here. So it's bit.ly dash madalf. I'm going to go ahead and type that onto our chat box right here, and so that you can access it as well. If you have your phones with you, you can scan the QR code and it'll direct you to the Google form right now. And so when you answer this survey, um, yeah, I will send you a Google Certified Educator Level 1 50% off voucher. I wish I could give it for 100%, but unfortunately, I don't have those kinds of powers. So this is the best I can do, and it's also a way for me to say thank you for listening to me this morning or this evening. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that there for a couple of seconds so that you'll be able to so that you can access the link as well or scan the QR code. Okay. If you have any questions, also this would be the perfect time to head on over to that link up above the presentation and share your own thoughts or comments, ideas as well. Oh, right now I can see Courtney. Hi, Courtney. Yeah, I'm still getting used to this Google Hangouts on air or YouTube live event. So I only saw your comment now. Right. So now I'd like to say thank you to everyone who attended this session. Once again, I'm Alfonso Mangubat. I'm the IB Diploma Program Coordinator at my school. I'm an Apple Distinguished Educator, a Google Certified Educator, and right there you can see my email address, alfonso.mangubat@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me that you were unable to ask during the presentation, you can send me an email. At the same time, you can also hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @teacherforest. If you're interested also in what I'm doing in school and all the other works that I've presented here on Google Slides, you can head on to my personal website. It's teacheralfonso.weebly.com. Okay. So with that, I say thank you. Let me just stop this. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me this evening and morning in your neck of the woods. I once again thank you for joining me, and I hope you all have a pleasant day ahead.